Live.
Okay. Are we? Okay.
Madhu, we are live. Yes. Madhu, you need to. We can't hear you.
Check my voice. Is it fine?
Awesome.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcoming all of you to one of the first sessions of I, Me, Myself after we go digital with this special section. I am Madhurima Chaudhary. I am the executive editor of Surfaces Reporter magazine. Today we have a very special guest with us, architect Fahed Majeed. Before we start with the introductions, let me tell you a little bit about the talk that we are going to have today. The section I, Me, Myself is a very special section of Surfaces Reporter that interacts with a person of substance in a very informal and up close manner. In I, Me, Myself, someone can see a person beyond the work that has already been seen or perceive about him. So, without taking much time, let me introduce you to Fahed. The multi-talented Fahed Majeed started his practice Fahed Plus Architects about 15 years ago in Kochi, Kerala, which has now expanded to Dubai and Bali as well. The practice specializes in master planning, urban design, architecture, interior designing, product design, exhibition spaces, art installations, etc. Carving a niche for himself, he is also one of the few privileged ones to secure a charter membership of the Royal Institute of British Architects RIBA from Kerala. Passionate about art, architecture, and design, he has won numerous accolades for the same. The firm is listed as one of the top 50 emerging practices and the top 50 hot practices in India. I remember first connecting with Fahed during the Dubai Design Week. I think that was way back in 2017, where his installation made of waste bed springs was on showcase. I've personally loved his work ever since. So let's hear more from Fahed on some very exciting topics with a lot of questions that we have received from the viewers as well. And let me also introduce you to Vertica Divedi, who will be in conversation with Fahed. Most of you already know her. She is the editor-in-chief of Surfaces Reporter, also the founder of Wade Asia and director of Bixi Marcom India Private Limited. She is one of the top architecture and design journalists and publishers in India, and also the founder of one of the largest platforms for women in design called Wade Asia. Vertica is an award-winning entrepreneur, speaker, and Asia Book of Record holder, passionate about water awareness and helping startups and female-owned businesses to rise. Her last education was senior management from IIM Calcutta. So over to Vertica and Fahed to take the discussion forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Madhu.
Thank you so much, Madhu. Thank you so much. And it was lovely getting an introduction of Fahed from you. I remember you telling me about him. Okay, and since that time, we really wanted to close and a very informal interaction.
We did enjoy a lot.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, welcoming you once more, and without wasting much time, I would like to tell all our viewers who are continuously joining us on our Facebook channel that this section is not just a kind of a formal interview. It's kind of a very informal and up-close interaction. So we will try to know more about the person behind the person we know, Fahed Majeed. So, Fahed, I would like to start with your childhood, with your growing years. Tell us about things, because I've seen your lots of interviews and all that, but nowhere could I see or could I know more about your growing years and what kind of impact any kind of learning or lessons have had on you, as a person who you are today.
Definitely. I belong to Cochin. Our practice was started in Cochin. It's in Kerala. And my younger part of my childhood till I think 11 or 12, I was in Qatar. That's in Middle East. So we used to come home for vacation. I never had any siblings. So when I come, I have a lot of cousins, plenty of cousins. So we had a old ancestral house in Cochin. It's a traditional Kerala house, which courtyards and so on and so forth. And in Qatar, we stayed in an apartment. So the difference was huge coming from there to here. Was not just the weather, the people, the interaction, the smell of the earth, the rain, animals. These are things you won't find in Qatar. And Qatar, the walls are very inert. I mean,
with nature.
yes. So Qatar, the walls are very inert, dead. When you touch, there's nothing. It doesn't give a temperature. Yeah, it doesn't. The traditional house where we grew up, by touching the wall, you get an idea of the moisture. It's not damp, but it is. It has a certain amount of moisture in it. It breathes. The wall breathes. When it rains, you get the smell of soil, earth, wet earth. So yeah, so coming back home was very enriching in very many manner. And of course, growing up in Qatar's is there. The lifestyle and the architecture is very different. Obviously, responding to the context over there. So obviously, I wasn't that conscious of that at that point, but just that, yeah, there were differences coming from there to here.
Okay, so it has kind of made you quite sensitive to the touch, smell, light,
Yeah.
the connectivity, the conversation between human beings and the surroundings around it, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that kind of thing kind of reflects in your work as well. So any kind of special memory or anything you remember? Today's Teachers' Day also. So anything you remember, any kind of teaching from your father, mother, teachers, anyone which you think has kind of shaped, you in certain way.
Well, my mom was generally very supportive of whatever I intend to do. So my initial plan was to get into cartooning. I like
Oh,
making
really?
cartoons. Yeah, I don't think architecture. So um, making cartoons was of animations basically was of immense interest to me. So
Okay.
mom was supportive, but then one thing led to another. I used to sketch a lot during pre-college, pre-university days, and got exhibited in a couple of galleries. And with that, I got into architecture. I wasn't very sure of architecture when I started, but I loved all the subjects beforehand. In the sense, I was sure about architecture, but in the sense, if I should continue in this subject or should I go into animation or something like that.
Okay.
As I got to know more about the subject, I was I studied in Bangalore University, Bangalore Institute of Technology, the Department of Architecture. So it was headed by Professor Satyaprakash Varanasi. He was an amazing tutor, very supportive, very forward. Once I remember, I was our college starts at 8, gets over by 1:30, and I decided to at one point just sleep in the studio. There's no one in the studio, and then my hostel is within the campus. I can go back to my room a little later. So that became an issue within the department because when some people came, when they knocked on the door, I didn't get up.
Okay.
And they weren't informed. So my professor was called by the principal the subsequent day, and I thought I'm hammered. But he is a very pragmatic person. He just, on his way back after meeting the principal, he just said, next time don't get caught. I was like, okay.
Oh, God.
That is all his guideline goes. So I
Okay.
think I'm one of the very few blessed students in the department because right from the time he became to the HOD, that was I think when I was in my first semester end, ninth semester he resigned. So during that time we had the best of best faculty from Bangalore. People, that was the beauty of studying in Bangalore. We had people on the ground. We have Arun Swaminathan, we have Sanjay Mohe, we have Chandawaka family visiting us and engaging with the students. So all that is spectacular. Dave Mildekar. Those are things which you wouldn't get on a, it's important as a student, to be in touch with the architects who are practicing,
Mm.
to understand what's happening around you. So the exposure by courtesy Professor Satyaprakash was spectacular. Spectacular. He used to hold the second-hand book sales and a lot of memories of college, a lot of very fond memories. So thanks to him. I mean,
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the names of the professors, some of them on this day, special day of Teachers' Day today. Okay, as we're celebrating it here. Okay, so I'm sure Madhu is there in the back, back
okay.
in. Please make sure that these professors should know that this talk has happened and should be shared with them and all others in his institute. Okay, so talking about your education in architecture, what I know is after your architecture education, you went and joined a furniture brand. Is that true?
Yeah.
So usually people join some architecture firm. So what made you to join a furniture brand, furniture company?
No, I think I like the idea of working on a smaller scale, and the difference of a product is the turnaround time is faster. In architecture, by the time you interact with the client, finish the project, it's easy 2 to 3 years if you're lucky a year. I'm talking of a residence. Like a pavilion, okay, fine, that went down faster.
Yeah.
So furniture, the turnaround time is fast, and I was very keen on understanding the detailing at a smaller level.
Okay.
And during my course as a student of architecture, I don't know if it's an obsession. I was very interested in exploring any design project in terms of models. So if you're doing a building, I would have a sectional model. I would have an axonometric model. I would work with different possible materials. I might have an audiovisual model. I would have all kind of things. So I like the idea of exploring materials, detailing how junctions meet, how they work, how they connect, and so on and so forth. So I thought furniture would be a good place to start with because it is small and it's kind of, I think, something which one should be aware of how it is working. And yeah, so that's why I started with furniture.
Amazing, wonderful. Definitely, yes. The turnaround time is less, and you get options to explore a lot different kind of materials, design, and everything. So I'm sure like that has kind of these learnings you have been, you are using a lot in the kind of product design that you are doing now, right? So from back, what I know is that you went back to Kerala and joined a firm there. Is that so, or how was the journey after Bangalore?
Well, after Bangalore, basically, I never had any intention to go back to Kerala. The intention was to work with, I was working with the George Lloydsinger. I was working with him for around close to 3 years. And that was an amazing practice. So I think as an architect today, I use a lot of metal in our works. And whatever I've learned about this material is by working with George. He's a very passionate architect, very active. And it's been a while since I've met him. Excuse me. So he's very patient. And if there's a particular component to be fabricated, I would be there sitting with the fabricator, understanding the impact of each and every weld. What is the impact of that weld on the other surface? Let us say when I'm making a drawing in steel, if it is high by a millimeter, George would usually come sit next to me on the table and he would ask me, Fahed, was that really necessary? So he's that passionate, he's that conscious. So I think that's how I learned about metal. But then I got admission for masters in UCL, Bartlett, University College London. So as I said earlier, since I don't have siblings, my parents wanted me to spend some time with them at Cochin. So I went back there, joined a practice over there. And there, Cochin Kerala was the other extreme. That 1 year of the practice, they used only wood. And I didn't know anything about wood because George's office, even our doors and door frame, everything is in steel.
I'm sure it must be all metal.
Everything is steel. So suddenly wood was big revelation. Then I was there for a year. So I had deferred my admission for a year because I want to get into another university which is better. But in reality, with work, I couldn't manage. I had to study for GRE, which I never did. So, long story short, I didn't get admission. And around that time, towards the end of that year, when I sent my application, I just applied to one university that year. Generally, we take prints. We're very particular about the print quality. So when I went to this print shop, I took 2 prints just to understand from different printers. And the better one I had sent it. The other one was equally good, wouldn't have so much of an issue. So the other one was there with me. So mom sent me a text saying that, listen, Manorama, I'm not sure if you've heard of Malayalam Manorama. They're one of the largest publications in...
Very much known all over.
Yeah. So they hosted this Young Architect of the Year competition.
Okay.
So I had a portfolio, which was a spare copy, which was there with me. So on my way to the office, I picked up a file, inserted them, the prints, and then sent it across. That won the Young Architect of the Year.
Okay.
I think as an architect, the challenging part often is getting your first project.
Absolutely.
So with Manorama, our name got published in papers here and there, and there was a lot of press coverage. And then people started calling us, and I never thought I would set up practice in Kochi. I was not at all actually keen on setting up practice, because setting up practice is a very, very tough part. Even today, I tell people, I would say at least 50 to 60% of my time, unfortunately, is lost on things which I don't enjoy. I like to draw. I like to sit quietly in some nook and sit in drawings. But I'm not doing that. I'm just talking. So I think, I don't know. So anyway, I'm happy with what we're doing now. So one thing led to another, and I was forced to start an office. Forced as in the circumstance was such that work started coming.
Led you to the starting of firm.
Which is true, absolutely. So that led to the starting of the firm. And so
you started your own firm, and then there is no looking back.
Yes. Something to that extent. So we started our own firm, and then subsequently we did a few works. We did some houses. We did some interior. So most of the works led to one award or another. And with that, we did something with the Taj, which won the Golden Leaf Award. So that article came in their internal magazines. So yeah, one thing led to another, and even Dubai happened in a similar manner.
Okay, so I'm very curious to know, how did Kochi is the story that you have shared just now. So how did Dubai happen, and how did Bali happen? And in 15 years, 3 places and projects all over. Tell us, how did one thing led to the other?
Well, actually, there is a 4th place too in the making, which officially it is there. It is London, where we are doing research activities. I don't think there's so much of practice. Even Bali, we're not doing much of architectural work there. It's mostly product design and landscape.
Yes.
So, excuse me. So yeah, for us, I think it was all by chance. I guess my mom's prayers. I have no clue how these things work. Because
your mom showed you this thing in Manorama, right? And then
she probably... Yeah, so that led to this, and then subsequently I met a local Emirati in Cochin, and they saw some of our work and they were interested. They said, why don't you come down and let's talk? So I came down, we started talking, we did his house, we won a competition. He invited us for a competition. It was a private resort, and it's a huge parcel of land in sand dunes. So that we competed with practices from different parts of the world, and we won that.
Which year it was, Fahed?
I think this was in... see, there was a huge gap for Dubai. Dubai, we started the practice, I think, 3 years back, 2017 or 2016, 17, we started. But I came here first in 2008.
Okay.
So after that, there was a bit of a lull period in Dubai, for which at that point I wasn't here. So before this, I was in Bali. Bali is, I like traveling, and I like traveling. I like trying different food, meeting
Yes.
people. So Bali was an end result of that. And there, people are very, very passionate. Bali is like home to me because it's just like Kerala.
Mm.
People smile a lot there in Bali. But yeah, very, very, very lovable, very courteous, a nice, very nice place, very lovely place. And it reminds me of my home. Bali is the only Hindu capital area in dominated area in Indonesia. And culturally, I haven't seen Hinduism depicted so beautifully anywhere in India. You should see the sculptures of Ramayana. Very beautiful, with so much of affection, so much of detailing. Spectacular. The kind of work they do, spectacular.
Yeah,
Spectacular.
I saw one video wherein you were showing, you were part of that one where a Bhumi Pujan was being done by a Hindu woman in very different. Can you narrate a little bit about that incident?
So we picked up a property over there with the idea of setting up practice. But I wasn't very sure because reaching Bali, there are no direct flights. It
Mm.
takes a long time. And I'm comfortable with what I enjoy at this point. Product design for me, doing it in Cochin is not so easy. Bali seemed to be way more easier. So I partnered up with Regina. So we together bought a property over there in a place called Nusa Penida. And it overlooks the ocean, and beyond which is a volcanic mountain. So it's very scenic. It's a nice property. And the
Mhm.
idea was to put up a studio and maybe a few chalets over there. So with that, yeah, so we had to do the Bhumi Puja. So for that, Ravi sir, he's an educationalist. He's based in Sharjah. He runs a school over here. So he flew down with his entourage and his wife from here. And so Ray is a Catholic. And we had to follow the customs of the place. That makes more sense rather than, I mean, I pray by myself, and I'm sure she would have prayed by herself. But apart from that, so the local way of taking permission, how do I say, systems or practices are amazing.
Mm.
Practices, permission. So it's a lady priest, which I haven't really come across. Back in India, not really. So here it is a lady priest who perform the puja. So she takes permission from the earth, from the air, and from the sky. And she blessed the initiative. So it was a very beautiful function, very beautiful function.
And a great
Very
mix of people from all over.
true. There were people from Dubai. There were
Not matter. What matters is coming together.
absolutely, absolutely, and the spirit of the
Amazing.
whole. Yeah.
Yeah. What makes Bali as more favorable, or product design more favorable in Bali and not so much elsewhere that you're working for? Is there some factors that really help in promoting or giving preference to product designs?
Well, you see, it's a very debatable point. I'm saying from my position, I'm based in Cochin. Cochin people no longer, the skill carpentership is going down because either the younger generation don't find it interesting. So there is no handing over, which was
Mm.
traditionally there. So the craftsmanship quality, hard to find good carpenters. And managing is yet another skill, which I really don't have. So back in Bali, the thing is that people still use a hand, and they are very respectful of the material, how it is sourced, how responsibly it is used, minimizing
Mm.
wastage. So for me, since my associate has a setup over there, it is way
Mm.
easier for me to work with her and the rest of the team rather than reinventing the whole wheel in Cochin.
Got that.
And
Wonderful.
I'm talking of specifically wood.
Mm.
So most of the products which we develop is wood based. I mean, wood is one of the most sustainable materials on earth. So we promote wood. and we're trying to get a few materials done out of bamboo and concrete.
Awesome. So from metals, you went to wood, and then so much things more we'll be discussing, with my next few questions. So I think it was Shreya and Ankit who wanted to know from you, like, how is working in these three places different, and how do you manage? How do you adopt the design strategies as per the place? Because we all usually see that as architects, when we're working for a certain place, when we change or we have a new office, it's really something that we really have to learn a lot. And you have been doing things pretty fast, and you are adding the fourth place as well, London. So how do you do it?
You see, but the thing is, our practice is mainly happening in India and Dubai, architecture work. So in Bali, as I said earlier, we are barely doing any architecture works. So it's a different type of work altogether. So that's something which I really enjoy, and it puts me in a different frame of mind when I'm there. No longer building, the smaller details we sit and work with suddenly after working on larger structures. Then for another 2-3 weeks, it's smaller structures, smaller components, which is interesting. And London, the primary issue, the reason why we looked at London was, see, as a practice, mostly, I don't know, we've been working with people who are privileged or financially well off. So I'm very conscious of the fact that the impact which we as a practice are perhaps making on larger mankind is pretty insignificant at this point. So we want to get more actively involved in research and initiate works which are research-based, which can, God willing, have a certain impact on larger mankind, which someone can benefit. We sitting and doing projects for wealthy people is good. I'm not saying it's bad, but it doesn't have much of an impact.
Okay.
So we were looking at. So we were looking at the
impact. You're looking at creating a positive impact with your work.
A common man. Architecture has to be something that is very accessible. It has to have a profound impact on the day-to-day life of people, not just a privileged few. So we are trying to look into mass housing. We're looking at alternative technology. So this year, February, I was in Italy, right around the COVID time. At that point, it was pretty normal, routine over there. And so we were also invited to participate for the Venice Biennale. So I had gone down to Venice to look at the site and discuss our course of actions and so on. So yeah, we were trying to look at how we can incorporate certain new technologies in mass housing. Housing is still a major issue in India.
So very good thing. Actually, it's so much required, and more so much as we are all facing the pandemic. So coming to this COVID and all that, I would like to know from you, what kind of impact do you think, like, because you're working across, three different places and countries. So what kind of impact do you think overall architecture and design is seeing? And what do you see in the time to come?
Let's see, to start with, I'm assuming COVID would get resolved soon enough with a vaccine or so on, maybe in another year or so, hopefully. But that assumption, presently all the markets are heavily hit with the present situation. So what's going to happen is with work at home, there are a lot of positive aspects about it too. So we even internally have asked a certain team in our office to identify processes by which post-COVID, how can we incorporate, we work 6 days a week. So if you can reduce that to 3 or 4 days a week, why come to office? You can reduce your footprint, you can spend time with your family, you can be around. So we are trying to look at possibilities, because architecture is generally there's a lot of team interaction.
Right.
So it is not that easy to completely disconnect. So that's something which we are exploring going ahead. And I think even in the industry at large, I think the larger IT companies, they've understood that they can cut a lot of overheads by completely reducing the footprint of a physical space. And building industry is one of the largest polluter on earth. So I would be glad, and I'm hoping that the extent of construction goes down. We should be focusing on housing. So I'm guessing, and with these IT companies and pharma companies, if they can possibly reduce their footprint, I think there would be possibility of investments or funds coming into the housing segment. That's pertaining to India.
So the impact is there, but there is hope as well for shift to a better life, better
I think so. Environment.
segmentation of resources, and sustainable and working, which can create positive impact on the lives of people. So that's what Fahed Majeed is saying. Now, moving to the next question, I'm coming to his projects. Very, very interesting projects, and we have all seen. And definitely, Surfaces Reporter will be sharing the projects in our print magazine as well as through some sharing of things and through the videos. But coming to his projects, I have seen that most of the projects, he tries to use quite unconventional materials, waste materials, creating something from nothing, sort of things. So, please tell us, Fahed, about Abwab. That's the pavilion that you created for the Y Design Week in 2017. Then it was Sky Passant, then Artbox during the Y Design Week again.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
all these have tried to use different materials. So with the design and material aspect, tell us, how did you come to those decision of using, I think it was what, mattress coil that you have used in the whole structure, the installation? Yes.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
We couldn't make it out when I visited there. I could not make it out at the time. But later on, yes, I inspected very properly, and then yes, we could see that. So tell us about how did you coin, and how did you come to the decision of using mattress coil, and how did you dismantle? What was the process of installation? What were the difficulties?
Yeah. So I think it's typically as a practice today, partly the reason why our footprint, as in terms of energy consumption and so on, is increasing because we are trying to, the building industry is developing systems. If it's a roofing system, be it a false ceiling system or a facade system, everything is a system, which means it is processed. The
Right.
moment you process the raw material, the embodied energy, the energy that is taken to reach there is high. So ideally, what I would say is it is good if you can understand. Often what happens is people would want a particular material to be in a particular manner. It is ideally good if you can understand or try to understand and see what the material wants to be. Each material has its own potential. So if you can understand that, then you can use it in a more rational manner. So in our project, we use a lot of recycled material from, now I just completed we completed on my mother's house, and that is completely made of old terracotta tiles. There's a lot of factories with old terracotta tiles which is being dismantled. So we get it either free of cost or at a very nominal transportation cost. So we have cleaned it up and used it as a wall for the entire project. And it works well. It's well insulated. It is about context. Context is about, connecting yourself with your roots. So by using these materials which are from that particular region, you are grounding your project, you're making it identifiable with people. You see, you're connecting to people emotionally, you're connecting to it experientially, you're connecting it in terms of memories. That is what is all about design. So Albab is a project where it's part of the primary pavilion for the Dubai Design Week, where we were working with BIA. So BIA is one of the largest recycling facility in, I think, the Middle East. They're huge. So we went to the yard and we could use any material from them. So they had, I don't know, a couple of trillion tons of wood, and they receive 100 mattresses a day as garbage, from which they segregate the sponge and the coil part, compress it, and then sell it as scrap. Then a complete car, they shred a full car in 54 seconds, which is pretty awesome. And we could use any of these components for the project. So I thought the bed springs were very dynamic, and it is as natural. It is, of course, process. It reached the end of its life cycle as a mattress. So it's going to be recycled. So in between, for this duration of this exhibition, we made this pavilion out of bed springs, and bed springs by virtue of its shape and size, because a mattress has a series of coils which are intertwined in a particular manner. It's connected for its own stability and rigidity. So if you understand that, you can make a structure by virtue of just the inherent strength of that. Yeah.
Yes.
But Dubai has very tough safety norms. So the structure is coming up on a basement. So they insisted in terms of code compliance to have certain columns, which could have been easily avoided. But that's regulation. So that's how the whole pavilion came up. So we do a lot of modeling, physical model, and even today, I sit and make models. Models are important. It's very important. You have to sketch. You have to make models, because there's this constant interaction between the drawing, the act of making a drawing using your hand, and then the connection that establishes with your brain. Over a period of time, it kind of enriches you. It informs you. It informs each and every stroke you're doing. So I think it's important. You have to sketch. You have to make models, view it. I'm not talking of a client presentation model. A model which is very conceptual, which is your understanding of the spaces, the volumes, the height, how the space is going to hold you, and so on and so forth. The bulking
So
and the size.
kind of bringing your visualization to something kind of real and evolving from there, so that really you can connect, evolve, learn from there.
Yeah, true.
So true. I love that one. The installation. I'm sure the world loves that installation that you have done. Lots of people going in and out of that installation just to see it again and again. I was one of it, one of them, doing the same thing. Now, tell me one thing. What were the other materials? Like, we were not able to touch the walls and all that. Okay, so you have very intelligently designed something without any foundation, because it was an installation. Right?
We couldn't do the foundation. We had to erect it in 24 hours. And yeah, so I was there at the site throughout, right from the trial mock-ups and so on, because you see, when you're trying out something new with a different system, it comes with its own complications, and there'll be all surprises. So I had to be there full time, so that any issue I can immediately resolve it, look at counter options, and approve it. So I think basically it was just bed springs. There's nothing else. There's nothing else. The wall, the roof, everything. And we strategically located in that particular point between buildings, so it's shaded. And in the month of November, because always you have to understand what time, where, what are the shadow, because we had a couple of options within the Dubai Design District to place the sculpture. So we decided on this location in coordination with the Dubai Design Week team.
So your structure still, when we went inside the installation, we did not feel that much. The temperature was kind of okay and fine. Yeah. And they were kind of. It was fine. It was fine, so to say. So
yes, that is all strategically placed in terms of all these matters, in terms of shading from neighboring buildings and a lot of other factors. And there was a worst case if it could rain, and that particular time generally doesn't rain.
Yet if it would have been, then I don't know, but it was great otherwise.
Yeah, so I think often it's important you do just what is needed. Just do what is needed. And just by that, you can, again, minimize your footprint. I think that is one of the biggest challenge.
How much time did it take to dismantle that one?
One day. Because here, everything is virtual. Yeah, if you take more than that, they're going to penalize you.
One day, I can imagine that. So, coming to the next question, you tell me, like, in lots of your projects, I've seen different kind of materials. Like you told about terracotta tiles, we are using. Here you have used the bed springs. And what are the other things that you've used? What did you use in that project? I think it's called Sky Pass Sand. What did you use? It's like fabric.
That was for an airline. Yeah, it's basically fabric. So the client, the project was supposed to come up on Sheikh Zayed Road, but there were some issues because of which the project got on hold. So it's basically it's an office, corporate office for an airline. It's mostly to show their presence in the region, and we thought it'll be good. Dubai technologically is very sophisticated and very inclusive in their approach. So they have different health apps, government monitors, even the well-being of individual people, which is very, very good. So these some of these apps which encourages you to work out more, or if you're unfit, it gives you certain guidelines as to what you could do, so on and so forth. So this building is supposed to be a smart building. The entire building is made out of fabric. It is interactive. It engages. Today, the issue with the millennials or the younger generation is it is hard to engage with them without an electronic device. I'm not very sure if they would like to idly sit on a bench and maybe enjoy a view or pretty much do nothing. I'm not very sure. They mostly engage. So the client's brief was the visitors has to engage with the structure at large. So the entire structure is a very smart structure where the entire lighting changes. So let us assume there are a group of people who are healthy. I'm just giving a very hypothetical example. And if this app is connected to the whole structure's intelligence, so what happens is the building takes a very a nicer color tone which depicts a particular well-being, and so on and so forth. Or you could paint your own colors on the building. You could make it own, give it your own color. So it's a very, very interactive structure. It's not well. We're still looking forward to it once things settle.
Right. It's very interactive and engaging. So far as I have some of the pictures. So, Fahed, you have done a lot of projects with different materials and all that, and I've seen that you try to, give some work to craftsmen in all of your projects. So you try to incorporate some of the craft work and traditions of that local place every time. Okay, and you have also told about how craftsmanship is not getting, from one generation to another generation, not getting, not being passed to the next generation. Okay, but which you see there in Bali, that yes, there is respect for the hand, done work and all that. So, as an architect, what is your message? What is your message to other architects about this thing? For using our own local crafts and traditions in our projects?
I think it's extremely important we respect our history, our culture, where we come from, and where we are. We see with each and every act of ours in terms of construction, we are freezing time, and we are showing to the people coming ahead as to what was available at that particular point of time. So in India, if you look specifically, before I get into that, I'll finish this. I think it's important you have to ground your projects, and these craftsmen, different region, Gujarat has its own particular type of skill set. Karnataka has a lot of skill set in terms of stone, which is not there in Kerala. Tamil Nadu, again, very strong in stone, very vivid in terms of colors, which is not the same in Kerala. So you need to understand the nuances and how people over centuries have connected to different materiality, to different color, texture, and how they have responded to it. And it is important to carry that forward to ground your project. See, off late, what has happened is, I think in the last 3 decades, I would say, let's say our generation, the previous generation, a lot of things have been diluted. So today, if you look, there are a lot of structures which doesn't. If you look at in general, any of our grandparents' structure where they lived, it was very contextual. It was very grounded. We would have felt good over that in that particular place, where the house where I grew up in Kochi.
Right.
So, but what has happened is over the subsequent generation, I don't know if it's a lack of awareness in terms of design. There's a lot of dilution that has happened, or maybe certain moral compass which went lost. If you look at our own culture, the temples were the oldest structure here, and for an average man, temple was always the epitome of truth. It's always the good material they've used, And if you can't really walk into a king's palace or any rich man's house to understand, for an average person I'm speaking of, for him to appreciate design or to understand finesse, it is a temple which always stood mighty and strong in terms of all its expression, in terms of its truth, in terms of its materiality, in terms of its clarity, in terms of its history, in terms of its culture. It's very grounded as structure. Over the years, what has happened is that's one thing which I've been actively trying to engage with. I think temple architecture should not be diluted. It should not be. See, off late, even in the hometown where our office is located, there's a temple maybe 500 meters away from that. We use plastic sheet as roofing. I understand there are financial challenges, but you're sending the wrong signal to the community. That is like, how do I say? It's like a beacon of truth is. So I would heavily insist.
Not be compromised with anything lesser than what it should be.
Yeah, you have to just use what traditionally was prescribed. If not traditionally prescribed, use material for what it is. If you want to use steel for making a temple, then expose the steel. Temple has always been a structure of truth. And for a common man, you see, the rest of the religious structure came in much later. So for the common man, the connecting point has always been the temple architecture. So that I would heavily say, even going ahead, we should not dilute it. Whatever material we choose to use, you want to make it out of plastic, then completely. But respectable, respect the material, be truthful to it. You want to use steel, fine, or stone, whatever. But it's very important because it's the main focal point for people. Because, there are certain things that are constant throughout history. It doesn't change. If you look at our public buildings where I come from, they don't show your roots. They're very commercial. They're generally very crass. I don't know who does it, but I don't think there is much of affection or consideration or respect gone into it, which wouldn't have been the case during our forefathers' time.
So it's important as we are going forward, it's important that we go back and take those things along which were so precious and so important, pure, and not to dilute them at all. And I'm sure like you who really want to create a positive impact on how people are living will be very instrumental in taking these things forward. So, Fahed, with this, we are coming to the next question. It's very important for a lot of students are also watching us here, and I want to know what is your opinion about the architecture education that's happening today? And do you suggest, or I think you have a lot to talk about it. So, do you have any suggestions for architecture students? And I know that you are also doing some sort of boot camp for extremely meritorious or some few students only, selected students. So would you please throw some light on that and also share your opinion about architecture education today? And do you think there should be some kind of change?
I think there should be drastic change. You should shut down half the colleges, I would think, because
that's
the number of institutes. You see, when I joined architecture, in the whole of Kerala, I think they had some 100, 120 seats. I think today Kerala has 3,600, 3,800 seats. So there's no issue in starting up a college. It's good. It's always good. But finding the right faculty is challenging. And if your college is located in, I think, you see, one of the virtues is college where I studied, Bangalore Institute of Technology, they shut down the architecture department, I think 4 years after I passed out. So for whatever reason, which I don't know. So the point what I'm trying to say is it is important. Bangalore, I think, as I said, I was very fortunate because I had someone like Satyaprakash, and the rest of the faculty. And it was very hands-on, and they were very attentive. And he used to, as I said earlier, connect us to people from the industry directly, thereby increasing our exposure and understanding. Today, some of the architecture colleges are located in very remote areas. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but at least they should figure out some way to increase exposure to students. And I think students should just work hard. I don't know, today I tried teaching a little bit. I really didn't have the patience because prior, I don't think my parents, or I haven't seen anyone's parents involved in postgraduate education. Today, parents get involved in education. They're worried the kids are not sleeping. And it's very hard to get good qualified faculty. Faculty who are passionate about the subject is very, very hard to come by. So, and,
Important concerns.
so important concern is, yeah, pretty much that. It's hard to get good faculty. Number of schools are high. And generally, the moment you have a postgraduate degree, I mean, if you look at the option of, say, practicing versus teaching, teaching perhaps might be more lucrative. I don't know. But whatever said, the faculty, if someone is opting to teach, it has to be a decision for the right reason. Because you're molding generations. And it can be pretty damaging. So, yeah. So there are a lot of gaps which I see in the education. So I'm not very sure. It's not a question of blaming. It's just that the whole system is such that it's hard to make a blanket statement. All that I would request is the students have to work hard. You can't, I mean, most people think they come back to go to any other parts of the world and things are easy. Not really. You have to push yourself. I see some of the students who blame the faculty and the institute for what has happened to them, which is pointless. You have to push yourself up.
Need to push themselves up and work hard. The point that getting in the right kind of knowledge and everything from the outside might be a little bit done through the virtual platforms, but the hands-on experience, the experimentations and all that would definitely always need the physical interactions. So two very, very important messages you have given about architecture education, and your message to the students that they need to themselves up to evolve, not blame.
I'm sorry, I cut you. I'm sorry, what?
Oh, what I said is that the message that you've given to the students that they cannot just blame the faculty or the institute, but then they have to push themselves to really evolve and learn.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So now
boot camp, so that
camp.
Kids can come and we can give them some orientation in terms of basic fundamentals, which ideally they should have picked up during the academics, which is missing for whatever reason. So, and then perhaps kind of finish them. It's more like a finishing school where you check the fundamentals are more or less there. I'm not saying we're replacing a school. I'm just saying we can add a certain value in terms of their skill set, which might be more instrumental in getting into practice.
Okay. So how many students do you take in a particular boot camp?
I think 3, maybe. Not too many. 2, 3. We really don't have the time. With too many kids, I mean, that's a responsibility. So.
Yet, the kind of the initiative that you're taking to really, give that kind of skill sets and give that time to 3 students is also really great. And if a lot of architects come up like you to teach students and give them the certain skill sets which they may not or could not have kind of acquired during the education system, then it's really, really good. And I think this should be followed by others as well. So with this, I'm coming to some rapid questions for which I really want some quick short answers, one-liners.
Okay.
So Fahed, here it goes. If you were not an architect, what you would have been?
A cartoonist or an animator?
Yes, I could sense that. Yes. So any particular material you really love to work with?
I like all materials. I'm not that concerned, but steel seems to be pretty interesting, very versatile.
Awesome. Okay, so one tip for good team management. I know you do a lot of management.
Yeah, just listen.
Good. So, any person, any work of a person, or any quotation, or anything that you are really inspired by?
Well, strictly speaking, I like the work of Antonio Gaudi and the Barcelona Pavilion by me. I like their works. They're very spectacular. They're spectacular, and the way they hold you, and the extent of detailing, and the time at which it was done. And they didn't complain of craftsmanship or people not knowing how to execute the job. They did it. So yeah, I kind of really respect that. But beyond that, There is this generic statement which I say to everyone in our office who come to join our office specifically. I think it's very, very important, and I respect that too. And that inspires me a lot. Number one mandatory rule, which is non-negotiable for our office, is that it is very important, whatever you do, you have to inspire yourself first and the people around you to better it. See, not knowing is not an issue. I mean, who knows? I mean, when you start, you wouldn't know anything much, which is fine. But then, whatever you're doing, if be it a model, I don't know, if you're making coffee, make a nice coffee. If you're doing a model, make a nice model. I don't know. Do that well so that the person should, I mean, I should get inspired looking at that person. Oh, wow, that kid has done that. Rather than looking at, oh, shit, that's depressive. So it's very important. Not knowing is never a concern, is what I would say. The question is, what effort is the person willing to put up, and how passionate or respectful the person is of that very act. This is very important. Very important.
Awesome. So anybody who is really looking to work with Majid, what is very, very important for him. You don't know anything, it's fine. It's okay. You can always learn, but passionate enough and something that is inspiring you is very, very important, so that when you put hands into that, you really inspire others as well in the process. Okay, Majid, I hope I could, give a briefer version of what you have said. And with this, now I want to know, is there any quote that defines you, any one-liner that defines Fahed Majeed?
Oh, that's a pretty tough question. It's a pretty tough thing. Mine which defines me?
You don't want to get defined. Should I take it like that?
I think so. I don't know. I don't think I have any one-liners, honestly, that define me. Whatever I've told you. One is about this thing when kids come to join practice, or the other one would be understanding what the material wants to be rather than forcing the material to be something.
Yes. So I think Fahed Majeed is about constant conversation with material or immaterial or person. It's like constant conversation and evolving with that. That's what I would define Fahed Majeed. Now, a very important message without which I cannot let you go is your message to young and aspiring architects, designers, startups. What is your message for them? So some of them are really, really, difficult situation. They never thought of this COVID kind of a thing, and they do, send us a lot of messages asking, how to move ahead, how to connect, and all that. A lot of things in between. So, what is your message for them?
So, Vertica, the question is pertaining to the present condition, the message, or in general?
Condition, and also to the startups who are in this present condition. Yes.
To the startups, first thing I would say is please be sure before you start up, because it's important you have spent enough time practicing. I see kids right out of college starting a practice, which is very, very unfortunate. But please, for the love of God, I know you must be very talented, I'm sure capable kids, but give it some time. Understand what's happening in the industry. Pick a practice which you connect with. Spend some time with them. See how they approach a particular work, because running a practice is it's a rather different thing from. So I would say it is important you work somewhere before you start your practice. And recommendation, what I would say to young upcoming practices: be patient. Be patient. Try not to take shortcuts. Just be patient. It will turn around. Stay committed to whatever you're doing, and yeah, that's.
Wonderful, thank you. So, Fahed, there are a lot of messages from people that I can see here. I'll put them on the screen. So let's see what is someone saying. So Mr. Bharat Ramamurtham is saying, amazing work and amazing insights from an architect designer who is rooted and driven by timeless values and principles. Considering his success and achievements, his balance, equanimity, and humility is really refreshing. Great to hear your thoughts, Fahed. I look forward to meeting you soon. Okay. So Fahed, any message for him?
The very, very kind words. Very kind words. Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Not very sure where you are, but yeah.
Definitely. Someone is saying, good show, Fahed, and that's Anna.
My roommate.
So someone is asking something to you. Okay. What are the key concepts that enable you to design all the eco-friendly buildings, Fahed?
What are the key concepts? I think is respect to the context, respecting our history, and doing something which has a certain value. I mean, when you're working on something, you're giving a part of your life which has to be respected, has to be valued for by yourself first. And so you have to also, as I said, take in the past, look ahead what we are driving towards, and do your work with utmost respect, utmost caution.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Someone is asking, we've worked with architect Fahed. He has an eye for details and have a good supporting team. Okay, some best wishes for you.
Thank you.
So here's Elvin. He's saying, what is your take on spaces created using exposed concrete and about integrating nature along with it? Does it bridge architecture and nature more?
I don't know. I think what is your take on using exposed concrete? I think you see using, that's what I was saying earlier, even when I was speaking about being truthful to expression, trying to be as much as you can. I understand there are challenges, costs, and so on and so forth. So I think it's through our projects, we try to blur the distinction between our indoor and outdoor spaces, try to make it one homogeneous structure. So expose, does it bridge architecture and nature more? I mean, nothing like that. I mean, you can bridge it with anything. You can see any material can be bridged as long as you understand the potential of the material.
Awesome.
With anything.
So Asif wants to know, what's your experience in practicing tropical architecture in Kerala? How is it different from Bali?
The thing is, also we don't do much of architecture in Bali, so it's hard for me to comment on that. But nevertheless, it's very similar. It's very similar. Just that people there are a lot more respectful, and I think what is governing Bali is, as I said earlier, it's a Hindu-dominated city, and they are very regimental in their prayer timings and so on and so forth. Even the name, the way the kids are named, it has a centuries-old system which they still follow. So there is a sort of discipline which they follow religiously. Even the radios get shut down for some 50, 60 seconds thrice a day. And they make their offerings thrice a day religiously. So that heavily culturally grounds the place a lot. And they're very open people. They're very open people. Very open, very respectful, and they respect the culture, which is a bit diluted in our case, I think. So that's something we should try and get a grip of, I would assume.
A lot of more questions. So surfaces reported, okay, it's okay if nobody can see your face, but surfaces reported Anupa S. Chavan from Karyam Designs is asking, what does he have to say about the future of real estate, architectural and interior design trends among the 4 cities of India among this? Okay, so we did talk about the pandemic times and the challenges and all that. So Fahed, would you like to share anything about the future of real estate?
Well, the question went. I think the future of real estate is it's going to be dampened a little bit with the present situation, but that's not real estate. Every industry is hit, but we will turn around. Sure, just a question of time. We will turn around.
So Fahed is saying we'll turn around. It's little down, but it will turn around for sure.
Yeah.
Sunil Deshpande is saying nice interaction. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Sunil. And Rekha from Services is saying, okay. Oh, what are the challenges you faced while designing that? I'm sure a lot.
You see, the challenges were taken more to our strength. The most interesting challenge was we knew nothing about the material. There was no structure built, so which means that there are no rules, which means that there are no proper systems. You can do what you want. You can your assignment is simple. You just have to understand what the material wants to be. So if you can crack that, then the rest should be relatively easy.
So what I can say about these challenges and all that is that once Fahed was in a conversation and the conversation between him and the material started, nothing was a challenge. Is that so, Fahed?
Yeah, something of that sort. Yeah, something of that sort.
Okay. So with this, I think it's time to now, say goodbye. Though I don't want to say goodbye to Fahed. So Fahed, what is your opinion or any message for us, Services Reporter magazine?
Yeah, I see what you guys are doing, especially during these times, is spectacular. Where you're connecting people across continents, across countries, making things borderless and connecting people. It's spectacular, and I think I wish you and your team uh, a fantastic future in the year ahead. I know it's challenging. It's the same for all of us. And I think whatever you're doing is fantastic in terms of connectivity. And of course, your print media has also been very strong. So looking forward to more interesting interactions and sessions to, connecting people.
Definitely. And we would love to listen to your conversation with materials and how you evolve with your models, designs, sketches. Someday I would also like to share some of your sketches. And if you can do some live sketches with our readers, that will be awesome. Due
Can
to
do that.
time, I could not add that this time, but I'm really, really interested in showcasing.
Yeah, can do that.
Yes.
I think it's
So
important. You should ask kids to make models, to physical models, pick up nice softwares and so on. Yeah.
yeah. So with this, there are a lot of people are already engaged, but I have to say goodbye and I have to end the live broadcast. So with Surfaces Reporter, we'll come back again with someone, a person of substance again, and we'll have an up close and a very informal kind of an interaction again. So thank you so much, Fahed. All the
Thank you.
best to you, and looking forward to seeing your great works in person.
Thank you,
Bye.
Vertica. You've been very kind, and thank you to the Surface team.